Modern education is so obviously failing to solve the world's problems, is so rightly criticized for not meeting society's aspirations, and is unable to prepare people for the fundamental challenges of living. Krishnamurti, Indian philosopher. To solve these problems, we need educational insights that help people to be revealed to themselves and not just be shaped by others. To understand life is to understand ourselves. The problem is not that people are uneducated. Instead, the more significant problem is that they are wrongly educated. Students are taught what to think and not how to think. Before the pandemic, schools forced students to stay confined in a classroom for approximately 8 hours nearly every day. Kids often learn things they don't enjoy. They unquestionably accept what they are being taught. They aren't even allowed the freedom to pretty much do anything on their own, even to use the washroom without asking for permission first. If you dominate a child, compel him to fit into a pattern, however idealistic, will he be free at the end of it? The goal of teaching should not be to help students learn how to memorize and spit out the information under academic pressure. The purpose of education is to inspire the desire for learning in them and make them be able to think, understand, question. Only then will they understand true freedom. School teaches us procedural knowledge, which is valuable and necessary. However, modern education conditions students not to think independently, not to critically question the very system they are a part of, without fear of recourse. Education should not just be about preparation for only a part of life, like work, but about preparing for the whole of life and the most profound aspects of living. It is essential to pay attention and be aware of the workings of your mind. Without self-knowledge, you cannot pay complete attention. That is why students must be taught subjects like math and science and learn to be aware of their own thinking process. In understanding him or herself, the student will know what it is to pay attention without resistance. In this way, the mind becomes keen and alert. The reality is that in most parts of the world, school isn't a place where critical thinking is stimulated. On the contrary, it is suppressed or ignored. Naturally, it declines and becomes weak, precisely like a muscle does when it isn't used. Consequences of educational conditioning. Observe the people around you, and you might come to see the consequences of our educational system. They are living unconsciously, not knowing why they think and behave the way they do. They accept and act without a second thought on what the media is presenting them as the truth. They believe in and follow religious and spiritual dogmas without having any solid evidence supporting their beliefs. They wholeheartedly support political leaders and support the decisions they make without the slightest resistance. Corporations exploit our emotional insecurities so they can continually sell us products and services. They are making us compete with our fellow humans about who has the best stuff. Modern education is growing increasingly dependent on the cultivation of gadgets, computers, and technology. Ultimately, these are being used for spreading fake news, internet, war, drones, amusements, video games, or as a means of escaping from oneself, social media. And so the mind gets easily lost in gadgets. What is the point of being educated if you're going to carry on like a machine? Students have a dismaying inability to tell fake news from real news. A recent headline from a study at Stanford on the subject. Fake news can create confusion and misunderstanding about important social and political issues. It also makes it harder for people to see the truth. When people can see that which is false in you and around you, then there is the beginning of awareness and intelligence. What can be done? Instead, we should educate people to think independently, clearly, and free their mind of their own emerging dogmas. To be a light to oneself. Teach students to not blindly follow the various leaders, groups, and organizations in society, because this is our natural instinct. but following has nothing to do with the search for truth. It is essential to become aware that authority, especially in the field of thought and understanding, can be a dangerous thing. Too often, leaders destroy their followers, and followers destroy their leaders. Shouldn't education be the prevention of problems rather than just seeking cures? We eat the wrong food. Then we take pills or go to the doctor. If we ate the right food, we wouldn't need to go to the doctor. We are saying, let us find out how to eat the right food. And look at all this so that all these problems do not arise. We need to educate people on this type of critical thinking. Let's consider the example of racism towards Black people in America, a severe problem. Whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process, he does not become a monster, wrote the German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. And that appears to be what's happening in the current anti-racism battle. In many middle and upper class American schools, they are now demonizing white children for being born white, indoctrinating students with an anti-racism ideology that induces shame in white students. Is this the correct and compassionate way to reduce racism and hate? Or is it likely to breed more differences and create division? You must use critical thinking, which is a part of self-knowledge, to find out what is true. It is pretty easy to get caught up in a cult without even knowing it, and becoming part of an ideological movement. And this becomes a new form of authority you start following. We are saying, do not follow anybody. Do not accept anything as true unless you have discovered it for yourself. This is self-knowledge. Why are students not taught about self-knowledge and the wisdom of gratitude, meditation, compassion, awareness, and mindfulness? Society does not want individuals who are alert, keen, and revolutionary, because such individuals will not fit into the established social pattern and may break it up. This is why society seeks to hold your mind and your children's mind in its pattern. Our educational system encourages you to imitate, to follow, to conform. Instead, education should aim to bring about freedom, love, and society's complete transformation. The ultimate intention of education must be the inner transformation and liberation of the human being, and from that, society will be transformed. The School of Self-Knowledge has very ambitious goals for the world. The mind has the potential to unlock infinite possibilities. Are you ready to start your journey? You are leaving behind the memories of yesterday and beginning to understand yourselves for the first time. You have to question everything that man has accepted as valuable and necessary. Will you do that? Let us find out if it's possible to free our minds from our conditioning in the next section.